local news leader.
With the coronation of King Charles about a day away, we're learning more about what that ceremony will look like and the impacts it will have on the history books.
Here to talk more about this is Lindsey Visser, a local historian and researcher. Lindsey, thanks so much for being here. You were here the last time when we were talking about, of course, the death of Queen Elizabeth. Now we're at the other end of that spectrum for the coronation. So before we get into some of the nitty-gritty stuff, what should people expect to see tomorrow that might be different if they happen to watch maybe the Queen's coronation? However many years ago.
70 years ago.
70 years ago.
The first ever televised coronation. It will be dramatically different for a number of reasons. It will be a little bit more slimmed down than what her coronation would have been. I think the guest list for her was about 8,000 people. Wow. Charles is about 2,000. So it's a pretty significant reduction in just the number of attendees, but also the whole look and feel of it. So obviously with the coronation, it's a very solemn, religious, somber ceremony, but there are elements to it, and the circumstances in which it occurs can kind of be changed a little bit. And traditionally, with Elizabeth and previous coronations, it's an opportunity for all the aristocracy, all of the dignitaries around the world to be dressed to the nines. Yeah. So you would traditionally expect the tiaras, the scarlet doeskin robes for the House of Lords, really traditional regnal dress. And that's not going to be the case this time. This is going to be very pared down, day formal, so military uniforms, dresses, no tiaras. The big question is whether or not the Princess of Wales will be in a tiara or not. But the fact that that's even in question is a real big indicator of just how dramatically different this is as compared to previous coronations.
How is public opinion on this? I know Charles isn't exactly the most beloved out there, so is it maybe scaled back because of that, or not necessarily? And then are we expecting this to be huge versus, well, because he's not as well liked?
Well, I think a big piece of it is actually out of consideration for two really significant factors. The first is there is a cost of living crisis in the UK right now. Inflation is rampant. And I think it would be very out of touch for the monarchy to go forward with a very lavish ceremony when so many people are struggling to get by. Yeah. So there's a very concerted effort to be very considerate of people's conditions right now. The other big piece is Charles really wants to reflect a modern monarchy. What does that mean in our world today? And I think there's a lot of things and decisions that have been made specifically to extend an olive branch to other communities, the Commonwealth, but also to make it feel more representative of what our world is. And in many respects, that out-of-touch kind of pageantry doesn't resonate with people in quite the same way that I think a practical, pragmatic, more slimmed down approach would probably really speak to what he wants the monarchy to be.
Really interesting point, I think, about that. And I think it is dead on true because there are so many people suffering in that country that to make it lavish would just be literally just kind of throwing pie in the face. Right. You know, I'm curious, a lot of this is marred or at least shadowed, if you will, by will Harry be there? Will Meghan be there? We know at this point that Harry will be there, but not Meghan. Is that, again, just kind of let's just not worry about it? This is less hassle?
Well, I think a big piece of it is Harry is of the royal family. This is his birthright. There isn't really a world in which they can say, okay, we know things are rough, but you are not invited to one of the most historic events of this century. So they do have to make allowances for that. At the same time, obviously, there are a lot of considerations that go into that. There are hurt feelings and whatnot. So what we're seeing is Harry attending, but not in the same way that William will be participating in the ceremony in a more formal way. So during one of the really important parts of the coronation, when all of the individuals who are lords or in the Queen's service swear their fealty to the Queen, Prince William will be doing that. Harry will likely not be doing that. Or if he is, it won't be like in a speaking role in the coronation or anything along those lines.
Is that because he's younger, or is that because of, you think, the strife that's going on with their family?
It's partially the strife because they don't have royal duties. So Prince Andrew is in the same position. They'll be attending, but they will not be taking an active role in the actual coronation. So it's kind of a compromise, if you will.
Right.
Really quickly, for anyone who's like, what are you even talking about? When is this even happening? When will this happen? And some details
over
on
here.
that.
Right.
Over here.
Yeah. So thankfully, thanks to modern technology, we will be able to watch it live. But that means you do have to wake up at the butt crack of dawn, 5 a.m., and it is going to be a full day of coverage.
Kelsey, getting up for that?
No. I'm sorry.
I'm not getting up either.
No.
But we know.
I absolutely will.
We know that Lindsey will be there. Will you be dressed to the nines as you watch
Well,
for
I
America?
actually am watching in my coronation white. This was an
Okay.
intentional choice
Nice.
because that is a key piece of what they would be wearing for the ceremony. So, yes, I will be living it up in all my glory with my 2 dogs from my couch.
Excellent. Lindsey,
Enjoy.
thank you so much for being here. Always a wealth of information. Really interesting. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, let's get to the weather forecast.